So, welcome to the webinar, CertiKit's webinar on Clause 4, the context, requirement and scope of your management system. As we go through the webinar, if you've got any questions, please drop them into the conversation window. And my colleague Jerry, who's sitting in another room somewhere, will pick them up and we can answer those when we get to the end of this. So before we dive into the webinar, a little bit about who we are. So we're CertiKit and we're a leading creator of compliance toolkits, and we provide ISO services, and we're based in Derbyshire in the UK. Since 2011, we've helped more than 4,000 customers globally achieve compliance to various ISO standards and GDPR. We specialize in ISO standards, data protection, cyber essentials also. Our mission is to make compliance easy for anybody who wants to achieve certification and to achieve the benefits from their chosen standard or data protection regulations. Our ISO consultancy and our internal auditing services are available remotely through MS Teams, and that's to organisations and businesses across the UK and Europe, and also occasionally across further fields like Canada, America. And if you want to find out anything more about our company, please visit us at certikit.com. And there's a lot of information, lots of blogs and webinars on there. I'm Ted Spiller. I'm one of CertiKit's compliance consultants. I mainly consult on 9001, 14000, 45000 and 22301. And I help new clients implement their standards, or CertiKit customers that just need a help in hand with tweaking some documents or something like that. I'm also the technical author, and I assist in the development of the toolkits as there's new updates, as we've just had with 27,000. We've been busy getting that up and out. And I'm a certified lead auditor for 9001 quality, 14,001 environmental, 45,001 occupational health and safety, and 22301 business continuity. And I've got about 20 years experience in the ISO area. And for my sins, I'm also a black belt Lean Six Sigma practitioner. So just to see what we're going to cover today. We're going to have a quick look through an overview of the whole of Clause 4, and then we're going to dive into it and look at the understanding of the organisation in this context, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties, determining the scope of the management system, and then the management system and its processes. And finally, we'll go to summarise what we just covered. So it's not a very long webinar, but it is an important part of the management system. So Clause 4. This is the start of the management system. It's the first clause. All standards now are written in the Annex SL format, and that is a format where they have 10 clauses. The first 3 clauses are not auditable. That's background on the information on the management system, any abbreviations, etc. That sort of thing in the first 3. And then from clause 4 through to clause 10, they're auditable clauses for your management system. They're the ones that your certifying body will check you on. And clause 4 is the one that kicks it off. It really sets the foundations for your management system. So it's important to take a little bit of time and get this right, because it will pay benefits as you go through it. So the requirements of clause 4. The first one is understanding the organisation and its context. Understand the needs and expectations of interested parties, 4.2. 4.3, determine the scope of the management system. And 4.4, the management system and its processes. And what we're going to do over the next half an hour or so is to dive into each one of these in a little bit more detail to give you an idea of what's happening. So understanding the organisation and its context. This is the first subclause of the main clause, again written in Annex SL. It requires you to determine internal and external issues that are relevant to the purpose of your relevant management system. So if it's a quality management system, 9001 you're implementing, it will be internal, external issues that could affect your quality. If it's in environmental, it's internal, external issues that could affect environmental aspects of your business, etc., etc. It requires you to look at, identify, and document them. This is the important thing. You must identify and document your internal and external issues. So let's have a look at external issues first of all. Some examples. We've got statutory and regulatory requirements. So we're looking at the standard to start with. They've got mandatory requirements. If you're in a regulated business, you'll have regulatory requirements. They may be in the UK statutory requirements for health and safety if you're doing health and safety management system. So there's one area for external. Another one could be business specific requirements or arrangements. So if you're doing medical devices, there are some stringent regulations around those. Pharmaceuticals, again, stringent regulations around those. These are things that you need to consider within your management system as external issues. Globalization, this is starting to get a hot topic at the moment. How can what's affecting you outside of your country affect your business and your management system? So if it's a quality thing and you're bringing in goods from South America and there's a war raging in South America and the goods aren't coming through, there's a chance that could affect your quality output because you may have to go and find substandard materials to fulfill your requirements. So globalization is something to think about when you're looking externally. Your natural environment, again, if you're doing ISO 14001, this is a very important factor because you are looking at your environment, your personal environment, your neighborhood environment, and your global footprint as your environment. And then finally, social, economical, political, and cultural factors. These are changed all over the place. It depends on where you are, what you're doing, what sort of management system you're going in, the company ethos, the company cultural journey, whatever this is, you need to look at that. The political activation around you within the country that could affect you. Scotland deciding it's going to go could affect those in England, etc., etc. All of these are external issues that you must look at. These are just examples of some. There will be a lot more than just these. So that's one aspect you need to think about to start with. The other side of things, internal issues. Now these could be equipment limitations that could have an effect on your output, your quality of output, manpower, another internal one. We saw that a couple of years ago with the pandemic, factories closing because people were off ill or forced to close. That has an impact on it. Other internal factors you could consider, strategic strategy. Where are you as a company? How do you see yourself growing internally? Are you going to add divisions? Are you going to expand divisions? Are you going to add a new product to it? Types of products and services you deliver. Are you one of these companies like a car manufacturer? You've got a huge logistic line behind you that could have an impact upon your quality output if they're not supplying you the right goods. The processes within that manufacturing process, all the different ones that could have an impact. If one goes down, it could have an impact all the way through. These are some of the things internally you've got to think about. Resources. We've already mentioned equipment, human, but one that's always there, budget. Have we got the money to do what we need to do? We've identified problems with the equipment. Have we got the money to buy the new equipment? Do we have enough money to buy the staff, to pay for the staff to come in to man that equipment? And time. I've seen this so many, I hate to say it, times where companies don't think about the time impact upon what they're doing. Time is a major impact on nearly every management system. If you plan something and it's got to be done in a month, and you've only got 3 weeks, you're not working on it properly. So time is an important consideration you need to look at for these things. Size and complexity of your organization. A company like yourself, there's only 6 of us, and even sometimes we get bumps in the road, but smaller companies don't tend to have major issues, whereas big companies, especially multi-sited companies or global companies, you've got to consider that when you start thinking about your internal issues. And we'll go on to this when we look at the scope a bit later on. That also has a big impact upon the scope. And going back to manpower levels of competence and organisation knowledge. Have you got the right people doing the right job? Have they got the right skill set to do that job? If they haven't, is there an impact to your management system? Obviously, yes. But how much of an impact? This is where you assess that impact. Is it going to be a critical impact? Is it an impact that we can soak up and we teach them as they go along? These are things that you need to look at when you look at the internal issues for your management system. So although that the actual requirement is to determine the internal and external issues that could affect your management system, there's actually a big chunk of work there for those 2 lines in the standard. And finally, the performance of the organisation. This is the overall performance of the organisation. Can something affect the overall performance of the organisation? The pandemic obviously did affect us for 18 months, 2 years. The war in Ukraine is affecting companies who are ISO certified in Ukraine. So there are things that can affect the performance, and you've got to take into consideration that when you look at your external global effects, etc., internal competence effects, etc. Include some information about your organization. So again, this is the start of the management system. In the old days, in 9001, we used to have a manual. You don't have to have a manual now, but I always recommend having a manual. It's a one-stop shop for new joiners. And in the context of organization, we have some background about the company, who we are, when we started, what sort of things we did when we started, where we wanted to be. It's a good place to add your mission, vision, values, and culture. And again, this is a written statement that you could put down. So when a new joiner joins and he's going through his quality induction, his environmental induction, his health and safety induction, you can give them the manual, and inside the manual will be a little bit of history about the company and the company's mission, vision, values, and culture. So the mission, the organization's purpose and its existence. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? The vision, where we want to be, what we want to achieve. And the values, principles, the sort of things that we want to put in that shapes us as an organization, what we believe in. And then finally, the culture, our beliefs, a little bit of our history, our ethics, how we behave and how we expect you to behave. All of these are contained within the understanding of the organization and its context. As an auditor, this is one of the first things I read because it gives me a feel for the people I'm going to be looking at and talking to. It gives me an idea of where the companies come from and where they expect to be going. And from that, I can work out this is a company that's probably got lots of things in place, or this is a company is going to concentrate on this, do that, but there's going to be a lot of this in there. So for me, this is, as an auditor, this is gold dust. And that's why it's important to get this right when you look at your context of organization. Now, the next bit, understand the needs and expectations of interested parties. This falls a little bit into internal external issues, but we're now actually getting into the nitty gritty of it. We're looking at specific entities here. This has an impact in all the management systems in another clause. So it's important that you get this right and it is aligned to clause 6.11 because the two are linked closely. And it's something as an auditor, and I've talked to other auditors, we see time and time again, this section is never linked clearly with section 6.11, which is the actions to address needs and expectations of interested parties. So you can see just in the title alone, interested parties, they've got to be linked. So consideration here, a lot of thought has to go into this. Clause 4.2 states that you have to identify interested parties, both external and internal, that have an effect upon, can have an effect upon your management system, can be affected by your management system, or perceived to be affected by your management system. Now, those are three distinct things, and please make sure you consider it when you look at an internal party. Are they affected by you? Can they directly affect you? Or do they think they can be affected by you? So all of these three need to have either nope, 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 or yes, no, no, etc. when you look at them. You need to provide a list. You need to sit down and work out who are your internal interested parties and your external interested parties. So, for example, customers, they're an external interested party. In fact, they should be your top external interested party, because without them, you wouldn't be in business. So, do they have a need and do they have expectations? Well, the need, as a customer, they need either a high quality product or a first class service coming from you, whether you're a manufacturer or a service provider. Expectations, they expect the quality product to be delivered or the service to be delivered on time and in a professional and engaging way if it's a service. Needs and expectations. Now, not every interested party will have both, but they will definitely have one of them. They will either have a need or an expectation. So when you work through your interested parties, ask the question, what do they need from us? What do they expect from us? Need could be a regulatory requirement. An expectation could be a quick service, a response within 24 hours. So there's two things you really got to consider. This is an example of an interested parties for external entities. And I just knocked this up. There is something similar in our toolkits, so you don't have to produce one yourself, but this is the one I like using when I'm working with clients. And it works through logically. I have the list of interested parties on the left-hand side. I have their need or requirement there. I have the actions that we're going to take to fulfill that need or requirement. I then have the person who's going to do this action to cover this need or requirement. And I've got the person who's going to make sure that this person does that. So your list can be a page, an A4 page of that. I worked with a customer who had 5 pages of interested parties. We whittled that down to about 3 after we went through what are the needs, what are their expectations. Can they affect you? Can they be affected by you? Or can they be perceived to be affected by you? And once we answered those questions, we were able to whittle them down. So just to quickly run through this, on the left-hand side, we've got customers. Their need and requirement, in this case, they want a quality service. So what are we doing as a business to make sure that we deliver a quality service? So we're going to make sure the customers are updated on the status of their application. And we are going to conduct internal audits to ensure the quality control of our processes. So that's what we're going to do to make sure that we produce a quality service for our customers. And who's going to do that? Well, the first one, our customer relation executive, is going to keep the customers up to date. And our lead auditor is going to ensure that we conduct the internal audits. Who's going to make sure they're doing it? Who's going to monitor them they're doing it? Well, the customer relationship is going to be monitored by the operations manager. And the quality manager is going to monitor the lead auditor in this case. So working our way down, let's go down to the third one, certification body. Everybody forgets to put this in. And I gobsmacks me, an external required entity is a certification body. What do they want from you? They want to verify that you are compliant with the standard. That's what they want. They want to make sure that you are compliant with the standard they come to certify you with. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to schedule internal audits to make sure that we have checked that we're doing it. We're going to conduct management reviews. It's also a requirement of the standard, but we're going to conduct those to see that we're doing our bit with compliance. And we're also going to have regular awareness sessions with the business, with the teams within the business, to keep them up to date in case the auditor asks them questions about the management system. Who's going to be responsible? So for the internal audits, the lead auditor is going to do that. And who's going to look after the management meeting and the awareness sessions? Our quality coordinator. And the person who's going to monitor all of that is going to be the quality manager. So it's a logical process. We've got the interested party and who they are. We've got their need and requirement, and there could be 3 or 4 needs and requirement per interested party. What actions we're going to take to address that, to make sure we fulfill that requirement, cover that need, who is going to do that, and who's going to make sure it's done. Fairly simple. And if you keep it simple, it's easy to monitor and easy to review. And you do exactly the same for internal. So internal, it could be your employees, a really high consideration, and then maybe stakeholders, etc. And just the same. What do they need? How are we going to fulfill it? Who's going to make sure that who's going to do it, and who's going to make sure it happens? We're now going to go into determining the scope of your management system. This is 4.3, the subclause 4.3. Determine the scope of your management system. It states you are required to determine the boundaries and applicability of your management system in order to establish the scope. So before you can actually write your scope down, you need to be able to say what is going to be in that scope. So you need to consider some of the areas, these areas. What business units and their functions are going to be included in the scope? Now, some management systems like 9001, 27001 to an extent, will allow you to say, well, I'm going to include production, but I'm not doing sales. I'm going to do customer services, but I'm not doing finance. Those production and customer services will fall under the scope. That's what would be audited by the auditor. Other ISO standards like 14001, 45001 is a cover-all standard. All areas of the business will be covered under that, because every area of the business has an impact or an aspect that could affect that management. So determining your scope depends upon the management system you're putting in place, and then you need to decide, why are we doing it? So in quality, it's quite easy. Quality is about making sure that we deliver the best we can to the customer. So where's that going to come from? Well, production could be one of them, definitely. Service provision, yep, that's another one. So service providers. What else we got there? Well, design department, yeah, we need a design department because they're doing that for production and doing preparation for training assessments, etc., for our service delivery, whatever it is. You then build up the departments and the areas within their functions that go within that scope. You may look at what aspects of production you're going to do, or the service life cycle you want to include. Again, depends on how big your company is. You may be something that you produce something in one side of the business, you move that to another warehouse where you get something else, goes to another warehouse, get something else. You've done your assessments, you say, well, there's no problems in that one, so I don't want that covered. I want this warehouse and that warehouse covered within the aspects of our products. And another important one is physical boundaries. Now, if you're a single site, it's not a problem. because you'll say it is for the site based in London. If you're a multi-site, where maybe you've got your head office in London, you have a design department in Windsor and a production department in Leeds, you've got 3 separate geographical areas. This does have an impact upon your certification, because you have to declare which sites fall within the scope. So think about that as well. We're working with a company at the moment who've got multiple sites, and they said, well, we want to roll out to all of them across Europe. Well, that's going to be very expensive. What we've recommended is that you get it in place in one location first, so you can iron out all the problems in one, and then when you've got certified there, you can then roll it out to other areas within your business. Again, that's entirely up to you, but organisation, physical boundaries have to be stated within your scope. So give that some consideration. And you've also got to say what your organisation's activities are, what you produce, or what services you deliver. As a company, we actually produce toolkits and we deliver consultancy. So our certificate states that we produce toolkits and deliver consultancy as both. So if you're a company that maybe produces something, but you also have a training department that trains somebody on it, you may have to put that both in your scope if, on your certificate, if you're going to have them both in scope. The important thing, it has to be documented. And again, this is one of the first things we look at as auditors, to see what is in scope and what is not in scope. And normally when you go to certification is 2 parts. The first part is looking at your documentation. And this is one of the things that we ask to see, is to look at your scope, the context of organisation. So we can work out our action plan when we come to do the second part, which is the actual checking that you are compliant with the requirements. And that is generally based upon what is in your scope. So it's important to take time and thought about getting your scope right. The last of the 4 is 4.4, and these are management system and its processes. Now this links closely with clause 8 again, so you need to think about this, but this is looking at it from a God's eye view, not going into the nitty-gritty in clause 8 when we start looking and mapping individual processes and procedures. You need to determine what processes are needed for the management system and their application throughout the organisation. These are the processes that can affect, if it's quality, the quality of your output, that could have an impact upon your environmental footprint as a company, could have a hazard or a problem if it's an occupational health and safety management system. But you need to look at this as if above the company at the big picture. So you need to identify those processes to ensure that your system actually does what it's intended to do. These are the auditable parts of the business. So for example, if you were doing 9001, you should be considering your inputs and outputs, the required inputs, so the outputs from those processes are correct. The sequence and interaction of those processes. So are they logical? Do they actually work? Is the output of process A correct for process B? And the output from B correct for process C? In Six Sigma, we actually look upstream, we look at the output all the way back to the input. In ISO, we look from the input down to the output, downstream. How are the requirements monitored for those processes? Internal audit is one, but we'd be looking at, are there check sheets in place for these processes and procedures? Have you thought about that? So when you do your God's eye view of your process and you'll say, right, it goes in from customer request to design department, and then it goes to production, then it goes through quality control. then it goes to the customer, and then we do customer follow-up. Those are my big process views. That's what I'm looking at here. But when I start to look at customer request and I dive into it in clause 8, I will be doing, right, initial meeting. What's the standard format for the initial meeting? Do we have a form for that? Is there a fixed agenda for that? Is it recorded somewhere? If it is, is this part of the management system that could affect something further on? Well, it could do, really, because if those requirements are wrong, when it goes to design and they start doing the design because they've not got the right requirements, we're going to get a mess. So when we get to clause 8, that's where the nitty-gritty is. For this clause 4.4, I'm looking at the customer needs, design, production, quality control, out to customer follow-up. I'm looking at the big processes and the interaction between those to see if there's potential for a mismatch. And it all has to be documented. Seems like a lot, and it is a lot for a very small clause, and it is one of the smaller clauses in the standards, as you'll see when you have a look through the relevant standard. It asks an awful lot of you to do research, and the better you do it, the more it pays off when you start doing the implementation further down. We've already mentioned here there are 2 areas of impact. Interested parties in 4.2 has an impact on 6.11, actions to address them. And this 4.4 will also have an impact on 8.1, processes for your business. So what we covered so far in our Fast and Furious webinar, it is an important clause, and it isn't crucial. It's vitally important that you get this right, because it just makes things so much easier when you go further down the line. Getting it right will have a positive impact. It sets the background why your organization wants to implement it. It identifies those requirements and needs from the external and internal parties that can have an impact upon your management system. It also identifies the areas within the organization that are to be included in the scope, and also drives you to identify those processes that are critical to the organization's management system. 4 2-line clauses, subclauses with a massive impact. What I would recommend when you start looking at your internal external issues is that you do a SWOT and a PEST exercise. If you're lost for thought and you can't think about internal external issues, do a SWOT and a PEST. And I like to do this when I do awareness training, and we mix awareness training up, so we have managers in there, team leaders, normal staff, whoever. We mix it all up so they're not all the same department, because you get a better idea about what's going on. I do a SWOT and PEST exercise with them. I give them a piece of paper that's already done with a cross in it, with strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats on one side, and then political, economic, social and technological on the other side. And I say, right, don't put your names on the top or anything like that, but write down 2 or 3 strengths of the company that you think are strengths. Give me 2 or 3 weaknesses of the company, etc. Then I collect them all in, do a few more awareness training, a few more exercises, and I collate these, and then I send it back to the executive management and say, this is what the company thinks, not the management team thinks, because sometimes the management will think of them as an overall picture of the company, where the workers will see some strengths and weaknesses in a different light. And it gives you a better rounded idea of the company as a whole. But that's just a suggestion. Totally up to you if you want to take that one away. But I find it works really well. And it also helps to engage all of the staff when you start implementing this, so they become part of that implementation process, which is another big tick in the box. So before we finish, just a couple of things to how we can at CertiKit help you. Obviously, we provide toolkits to customers, and within the toolkits, each toolkit comes with a support package with unlimited email support. We can review up to 3 documents, etc. We also do logo replacement service. Every document we produce in our toolkits has a logo holder, so you can put your logo in there. And throughout the documents, there are specific areas where you can put the company's name in there. And when you have a toolkit like 27001, which is like 140 odd different documents, it's time consuming to put a logo on each one and then go through the document to put your company's name in. We can put that in automatically for you, and it takes us about half an hour to get that done, and it makes a lot of difference. We also do consultancy now, either designed around our toolkits or designed around the requirements. If you've already got a system and you've got a problem and you want something, another set of eyes on it or another idea to help you make sense of it. We can do that, as I said earlier, through MS Teams, UK, Europe, and we do go beyond. We have got clients in America. We were talking to Australia last week. So if it's an hour one, we tend to push the boundaries to help you. But we can also do full implementation consultancy and work with you as part of your ISO implementation team to get that fully embedded and ready for certification. And when you're ready for certification, we can come in and do a pre-certification audit, which is exactly the same as you would do for a certification audit, except it's a bit harder for you because we already know your system. So we'll be asking even more awkward questions. But if you can pass that, you'll definitely pass a certification audit. And then finally, we also offer internal auditing. So smaller companies don't tend to have internal auditors because they just haven't got the manpower or they don't have the relevant skill sets. We can come in, work with you, set up a schedule and come in on a regular basis to make sure that your management system is audited, which is a requirement, a mandatory requirement of all the ISO standards. So I hope that has been some use to you. It is an important part. If you get this right, it's going to make things a lot easier when you come to other parts of the standard. And it gives you the footing, it gives you the understanding. And I make this a part of awareness training as well. So everybody knows what your mission statement is, what your vision is, etc. We build that into awareness training, and it reflects the management's commitment to the management system.